today we are beginning our holiday mini via that we call Oxney. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you can say that however you want. We are celebrating the season of Advent, Hanukkah, Solstice, Christmas, New Year's, and Epiphany. So our theme for the via is called Ordinary Miracles. So we are going to be celebrating the ways we can encounter miracles in all of the mundane and ordinary times of our lives. And so today begins the season of Advent. This is the 4 weeks before Christmas that are set aside as a time of waiting, an active anticipation of the birth of the Christ child. Now, waiting is not something we humans do very well at all. And I think it's because we expect waiting to pay off in some way. Something arrives that we're looking forward to, like a kid for Christmas morning or the birth of the baby Jesus. But what if, though, waiting isn't something that's active, but instead it's a quality that we are called to embody? Like compassion or joy or empathy or love, perhaps waiting is simply something we're called to bring out into the world for no other reason than it's what and who we are. Instead of seeing Advent then as a time to wait expectantly, we can begin to see it as a time to cultivate a quality of waiting in our lives, something we do not in anticipation of something happening, but as something we become in this world. We wait not as a means to an end, but as a spiritual practice, knowing that it is that gentle quality that allows us to enter the spaciousness of God in more real and loving ways. And once we can simply be here, Teacher Sadhguru says, you become aware of the larger dimension of the existence, which is always in action. You become aware that you are a part of it. Or as those theological songwriters Holland Dozier and Holland once observed, you can't hurry love. Just trust. Give it time, no matter how long it takes. When we are not in a hurry for love to manifest within us or out in the world, we can cultivate a quality of joyful waiting within the larger dimension of existence, that life-giving action that always invites us to be active participants. And when we can reach that point of holy waiting, Jubilants, then we get to say, oh yeah. Going to visit the doctor is never usually a fun experience, but according to a survey done a few years ago, the majority of patients said this one thing is what they hated the most about doctor visits. Not the fear of what the doctor might say, how much the trip might ultimately cost them. The one thing that 63% of those surveyed hated the most was waiting. That's not 63%, I don't think. But for you out there, Bob said, prostate exam. The rest of them got it right. Waiting. Whether it's in a doctor's office, in line for an event, or anything else that we got to queue up for. We humans, we hate to wait. We feel like our time is being wasted. Even if we didn't have anything else planned to actually do during that time, waiting just makes us uncomfortable. It sometimes makes us angry, especially if we feel like we're being unjustly delayed by an accident that delays traffic or some other event outside of our control that waylays us. Psychologists say waiting tweaks our sense of fairness as we see others go ahead of us or cut in line. We become impatient. We become dissatisfied. Today, though, begins an intentional period of waiting that can teach us how to approach this subject with a little more clarity, and if we do it right, maybe more joy and patience and love. In fact, I dare say that if we can learn to wait intentionally with an expectation that nothing happens until the time is ripe, then we'll come to find that we not only welcome waiting, but maybe we even deliberately seek it out. Advent, which begins today and marks the 4 weeks before the legend of Jesus' birth at Christmas time, is a time of expectation as we anticipate the arrival of the baby that Christians believe to be the Messiah who would show them the way out of both spiritual and literal bondage. It's a time to prepare our hearts and our minds for the Christ's arrival by reflecting on the mistakes that we've made or the things that we've done or said or thought that might have hurt ourselves as others, as well as a time to recommit to living in grace and in love in the world. And of course, it was that theologian Tom Petty who once observed that the waiting is the hardest part, but he's not wrong. But if we adapt Advent's expectant spirit of waiting, we can begin to make waiting easier and maybe even joyous in many ways. That word, expecting, it became a euphemism for being pregnant back in 1817. And that's really the kind of waiting that we're going for, a waiting that brings a sense of aliveness into our awareness, a sense that our lives are being ripened by our spiritual practices, and whatever is meant to be birthed or emerge from us into this world will arrive at its appointed time. This awareness of aliveness, the joyous waiting, is what author and teacher Sadhguru says should be our approach to meditation. Prayer, he says, is different from meditation. When we pray, we talk a lot, whether it's in our heads or out loud. We're making requests of God to do something, prevent something, give us something, usually from this outside world. Meditation, though, is a time of waiting. It is a time to simply be alive in the presence of the flow and the spaciousness that is life itself. If you just wait without doing your own thing, Sadhguru says, the existence will do its thing. Once you are simply there, you become aware of the larger dimension of this existence, which is always in action. You become aware that you are part of it. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't wait to experience that. Or maybe more accurately, I look forward to waiting to experience that. And that's the season of Advent, Jubilants, when we look forward to waiting, to simply be here without having to do our own thing, so we can allow the holy to do its thing. And this is a reminder that the part of us that hates waiting is, of course, our ego, because it always wants to be doing its own thing, and it will direct us to do whatever it believes should be our own thing at that moment. We feel impatient when we wait because we think we're special. We got more important stuff to do than everybody else in this room, so how dare anyone delay the fulfillment of our very important agenda in this moment? What if, though? What if this moment has an agenda for you and not the other way around? What if this moment is simply waiting for you to look up and notice that joy and peace and love and enlightenment is always being offered to you right now, but you are so busy out there searching for joy and peace and love and enlightenment, you never recognize that it's already here. It's already within you. What if the Holy is asking you every moment of your life to just wait, to stop being so dang busy with your ego schemes and plans and just be here now? Not to talk to God, not even to try to listen to what God is saying, but to wait, to feel what it is that God is trying to grow within you and birth into this world. When Mary was told of the baby that she would give birth to, she didn't ask a lot of questions. She simply waited. She trusted that whatever the Holy intended for her to bring forth into the world would emerge at that perfect time and perfect place. And she would know in that moment what to do. She didn't have to worry about it before then. Jubilants, this is a joyful kind of waiting. Mary had no idea what was going to come from all of her waiting, but she was willing to allow what would emerge from her to change the world. I think Mary understood what A Course in Miracles would teach thousands of years later, that God's meaning does not wait in time. Instead, it waits within God's realm, which is that timeless place inside of all of us that we call our higher divine self. So to get yourself inside of that realm, A Course in Miracles says it is merely to focus your full attention on it. Another word for that, meditation. This is a call to wait at the altar that is within each of us, that divine place that we can only touch with a joyful sense of waiting that ignores all of the complaints of the ego that we are wasting our time sitting around in meditation when we could be doing something and accomplishing something. Our ego believes that unless we are constantly out here pursuing happiness, we're not going to be able to have what we need or become who we think we want to become. But of course puts that to rest when we wait on the holy at that inner altar of our higher divine self. Having and being are ultimately reconciled, it said, and it's reconciled in our mind, and we finally remember who we truly are. When we say to the holy, I will wait for you, we will see that the light within us is the same light within all of us. Breathe deeply. For God alone, my soul waits, wrote that ancient psalmist. From God comes my salvation. The Hebrew word for waits, dumiyah. There you go, here's your Greek lesson. Dumiyah, or your Hebrew lesson. Dumiyah. It means stillness. It means quiet. It means confident waiting or repose. However, it also means resignation, which is what I believe Sadhguru and a Course is talking about when they talk about waiting. We don't wait with some expectation that something great's going to happen, Santa Claus is going to come, or even in a Savior that's going to be born to take away the sins of the world. No, we wait in resignation, in surrender, in a blissful state of aliveness that welcomes whatever comes or whatever does not come. Like the characters in the famous play Waiting for Godot, we show up every day to wait. While Godot is ultimately a no-show in their illusory reality, the characters do what we all do. They laugh and they argue and they play and they spend their time together. In short, they go on living while they wait. Even if Godot never appears, the characters have experienced the aliveness of their waiting. And this jubilance is our ultimate goal, not just in meditation, but in life, to say, I will wait for you, even if whatever we are expecting never arrives. Pulls a Godot on us. When we stop doing our thing, the ego thing, and allow existence, the holy, the universe, to do its thing, what arrives will be just what is needed in the time and place it is needed, even if what arrives is nothing in our perception. But perhaps it's everything that arrives. Doesn't mean we don't do anything. Like those waiting for Godot, we live. But we live in a whole different way. We allow the aliveness of the Spirit to move in, through, and around us in everything we do, everything we think, everything we say. And from this waiting, this kind of waiting, the psalmist says, comes salvation. And this is not the kind of salvation we expect when baby Jesus grows up and gets himself nailed to a cross to save the world from sin. That Hebrew word for salvation, Yeshua, is the deliverance we need from our mistaken belief in separation. In that waiting, the psalmist himself has an epiphany. He understands the world he sees is merely an illusion and that only God, that one life force of love and unity, is real. The psalmist writes, those of low estate are but a breath. Those of high estate are a delusion. In the balance, they go up. They are together lighter than a breath. And of course echoes this when it says, your right mind sees only holy siblings because it sees only its own light. It says the same thing. Jubilance, our perception of separation and difference, it's but a breath. It's a delusion. But in the balance, when our right mind sees everyone as holy siblings, we are together, lighter than a breath. The psalmist didn't realize any of this through prayer and supplication to God. It was a revelation that emerged from waiting as a form of resignation and surrender, of how we think this world should look and feel and act. And a course tells us that we have no idea at all what is in our best interest. And our ego tells us we know exactly what we want, and we know exactly how the world should be, and we got the law of attraction, and so we're going to bring it right to us. But which tactic do you think is going to bring you less suffering? Which plan will allow the holy to be your guide and teacher? And which plan will allow the ego to dictate your direction? Our ego is always going to be singing that tune that the waiting is the hardest part. It's always going to seek to keep us feeling special, annoyed at anything that we think is wasting our time, such as meditation or even prayer. It's going to find a million things to keep you otherwise occupied. Your phone, social media, your worries about the future, your concern about your health, your bank account, your reputation. It will tell you that if you waste time, you will never find peace or joy or happiness. You got to get busy finding it. But Sadhguru, A Course, and the Psalmist, they tell you the truth. Wasting time, especially in complete resignation and surrender of your ego's desire, is the quickest way, not just to save time, but to create more of it, because it's an illusion anyway. The saying goes, if you don't have time to meditate for an hour, do 2. That's how you create time. The first step on any spiritual path, though, is always the same. It is willingness. You have to be willing to say to the holy, I will wait for you. The second step is awareness, because you know, as soon as you resign yourself to relaxing in the holy's waiting room, the ego's going to start to complain and cajole and threaten you. It will use all of its tools. Fear, grievance, irritation, anger, depression, futility. It's going to try to lure you back into its insistence that you got to be busy doing something in the world, or you're never going to have what you need or become what you think you want to be. You must become aware of the tricks so you don't follow it once again down the path that tempts you to just swap an illusion for an illusion, and you end up in the same egoic waiting room with just different art on the wall. Right? You've been there. The third step is to understand the power behind the psalmist's words. The holy alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall never be shaken. The key to this kind of holy waiting, jubilance, is to recognize where you have put your faith. You must completely, and I say completely, withdraw your faith in the ego and make the holy your only rock, your only deliverance, the only fortress that you need. In this waiting, you will be made so strong that the ego's taunts and temptations to believe in separation will never shake you from the knowledge of your ultimate unity with God and with one another. And you will, at this stage, just naturally begin to embody the light of the holy that is already burning so brightly within you. So the question you got to answer this morning, jubilants, is this. Are you willing to wait upon the holy? Put aside your egoic agenda. Put aside your expectations. Put aside your hope for your own personal gain or glorification. Are you ready to become aware of the ego's tricks that pull you away from that willingness? And will you recognize where your true strength and faith lies and be vigilant against the ego's trickery by making the holy your only teacher, that rock, that deliverance and fortress? Because when you are willing to wait, aware of the ego's temptations to impatience, and recognize the holy as your only rock, then you will step into your higher divine self and become the embodiment of that holy light of love that seeks to shine through you into this world. So if you're ready and you're willing to wait, jubilants, that first step is to say to the holy, I will wait for you.